Meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the agenda for today. Motion to approve. Motion. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved for today. Approval of minutes for January 20th, 24 meeting, regular board meeting. Motion to approve.
Motion.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All in favor for the agenda approved for the January 20th regular meeting. President's comments. Once again, I want to thank John Viola, our general manager, and his team, and all the department heads, and all the committee members for all the hard work that they do here in Ocean Pines to make it a great place, not only to live, but also to work. So thank you for that. John, you're up.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Good morning, everybody.
John.
Okay, so Jim Leadership Report, John Viola and Linda Martin. Okay, let's go to the first page. All right, so it's what we'll talk about today, the initiatives. You've seen most of them, the projects. I'll give you an update on that. Some beautification, a lot of maintenance, and obviously racket sports. Turn the page. So safety, and actually what I'm going to ask you, I'm going to ask the chief if you'd like to say a couple words about safety and where he's at before I get into the slide.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning, Chief. Morning, Chief.
I just want to give a brief update on what we're doing with safety. Safety is a big thing here in Ocean Pines. It's been a very safe place, and we want to keep it like that. Working with John Viola and the rest of our team here in Ocean Pines, we have been looking at different ways to make sure it's staying safe. We have working with a group with Patty Stevens and the Pedestrian Safety Committee. We've also been working with, under Mr. Viola's leadership, also myself and the Director of Public Works, looking at different ideas of how we can do things differently here in Ocean Pines. And I think he's going to talk to you about some of the new signage that we've had put up, some of the new crosswalks that we've had put up. And we are currently looking at new things to add warning signs, especially to the parkway. And one thing I want to let everybody know that we're going to be doing some significant speed surveys of Ocean Pines coming up over the next few weeks. Some of them will be done remotely with remote equipment, and some of them are going to be done with live officers. So just everybody, please obey the speed limit. So
Thank you, Chief.
have a good day, everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Chief.
Okay, staying with that safety theme, just some of the things the chief talked about, what we've done and what we are doing. If you look down at the bottom, we've got a couple pictures, obviously the crosswalks. I know I had committees. There was a situation that happened months ago, and we're hoping with the crosswalks, that's the feedback we received. Mankland Racket Center, we also put the lines in there for safety, and as you know, there's some speed bumps there. Top right corner, working with the Department of Transportation, you know that they put in, by now, they put in a crosswalk, but we agreed, and they had requested that we tie in that walkway with our path, which we did. You can see that top right. Turn the page, and we do own that property. Racket sports. Okay, so some of this I've already made announcements. Obviously, there have been changes based upon the current situation or the past situation down there. I have a management team in place. There's been promotions that I've presented. We did in communications. So we will be bringing Terry back. Terry's agreed, Terry Undercoffer, to be the pro, and he'll put together a team to make sure pickleball and paddle, as well as tennis, is all covered. Fencing, if you go down there, and you've been down there the last week or two, and we've heard about fencing for a while. I went down there with Novi Eddy, and we worked with some of the workers. I believe we have something that would be effective and efficient, not what we were hearing, but certainly more streamlined. So we put up this orange prototype fence to give everybody down there an opportunity to give us feedback on. Once we get the feedback on that, we believe, from what we heard, especially that fence that we're going on the left there, significantly shorter than the perimeter fence that I had been hearing about. So this should help. Hopefully this will help. I'm being told that people aren't paying. Turn the page. Bridge maintenance. So we did have a situation a couple of weeks ago. Actually, it was the end of January, where there was some erosion, drainage on the bridge right over here. Public Works went out there immediately. I had received on info some pictures from homeowners, and you can see the work that they did, and there's been no complaints since. Stabilized. Turn the page. Everything now is about maintenance this time of the year. Obviously, maintenance is one of our top priorities coming from the board, and of course, the team. So ditch maintenance, the ditch drainage is big. Usually I break it out just drainage. Today I put it as part of maintenance. 35 sections of ditches have been cleaned, 23, 24, mostly over the last 8 months. Outside contract is approximately $100,000. We're seeing a lot of very good positive results. Public Works now is fully staffed, that I'll talk about later on, so a lot getting done. And I think it's been effective.
Still a lot.
Sorry, all right, so we have some, oh, there you go. I think we missed a page. So we had a technical difficulty, but I can, so I'm on maintenance yacht club. Okay. Yeah, so more maintenance, and we've done a lot since the pools were closed. I've been updating everybody the last several months on the pools, all the painting, all the renovations, the maintenance. Today I'm going to talk about the yacht club. We received an extensive list from the Matador Company, a punch list. You can check in the addendum section of all the work that we did basically in-house and is completed. There might be 1 or 2 open items. I know they're working with the fire marshal right now. I talked to Butch. Beach Club, I mean, I know the board, they were up there a couple months ago. We did refinish the bar tops. We repaired behind the bar. Everything there is fine. The community center, there's a list of things we've done there. Basically maintenance, the floor in the gym. We believe it's a good floor. We will need more maintenance than we've been doing. We believe with that maintenance, we should be okay. Obviously, all the restrooms, that's pretty much it. We are. Next, Eddie's going to go out and look at White Horse Park with Debbie, and we'll do some maintenance there. The parks, there are kayak racks. We got a lot of emails on that. I believe now there's 4 of them, approximately, 8, so 32. So we did increase it. I know we got a bunch of emails on that, so we're trying to accommodate that demand. The pools, we did receive something from a vigilant homeowner. There's a picture right there. We were told it was a safety situation up top left, top right, and then we took care of that right away. So that's done. Maintenance, maintenance, maintenance. Turn page. Tiki bar. I know we're all excited about this tiki bar. We've heard a lot about it. Obviously, we have to get this done by Memorial Day.
Hey, John,
Yeah.
quick question.
Sure.
Elaine?
I'm sorry, I had a question on the maintenance at the beach club, because I know one of the issues is at least I know in the ladies' restroom, that there were some plumbing issues. You know, when you went in there to use a sink, I think there's 3 or 4 sinks, and it was kind of a crapshoot, whichever one was working that
You're
particular.
talking about the restroom downstairs and the ones upstairs? Downstairs?
Yeah, so I don't know if that's been
The ones
addressed.
at Beach Park. All right, I will check it out on
Okay,
Tuesday.
yeah, because I know that was a real
Okay.
problem last
I
year.
know they've done work. I'll definitely check it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
Okay.
John.
Yep. All right, tiki bar. By now, everybody's familiar with this. So the top left part is the extension. It's approximately 20 by 14, 20 by 16. You can do the math on that. If you look at the top where we have the green, that's the part that's going to face the pool area. So I know several people that I know wanted, and they think it's a great idea that there's more service for the pool area. So again, we're in the permit stage. We thought we had it. There are some changes on the county level for plumbing. We're working with Vista on that. We hope to have that taken care of in a week or 2. As far as the material, we have been ordering it. We're doing it ourselves. We're working with the contractor to make sure all the material in place. So once we get the permits, nothing will hold us up. And we are working with the Matador Company on the transition. Turn the page. Back at Sports Building. This is a sketch. This is now with Vista. We waited until we were done with the tiki bar. We had that as a priority with the dates. We believe both should be done in May. The only thing on that sketch that Frank Brown did for us, is the pro shop there, the top right. Now, with the changes down there, I'm getting feedback, and I've asked the advisory committee, we should really put the pro shop more inside as opposed to out there, and then put the office there. So I am looking for feedback on that. I believe they agreed to the change. Turn the page. Pavilion Veterans Memorial. Now, obviously, you may know this one. I forget where I took the picture of that one. Was it Bethany? Bethany. It was either Bethany or Rehoboth. So this is what I've shown to Marie, to Whalen. We're all looking at something like this, and I believe this is what Marie Gilmore, her vision was. So we are working on that. I was looking at some kits, but Whalen says that they can build it from scratch better. So hopefully May 10th, I know there's some things with children there. He's telling me we can do it once we get the permits on the page. No questions, sorry.
Yeah, how large is this pavilion going to be?
So it's 40, we're looking at 40 feet. Somewhere in there. Obviously, I got to see the prices and everything, but that's the range.
Okay, thank you.
And then where the position is, we do have a gazebo right out there now, so you can get an idea where this will be. Front page. Okay, replacement, this was emergency replacement approved by the board. If you're going down Ocean Parkway, you can see them over there with, I think it's Wood Duck 1. We're on schedule. I see they're doing the backfill and grass, so it should be complete soon. Front page. Electronic sign. Okay, so a lot on this, and we do have in the budget for more signs, but this is the first one. I got approval on this. We went forward. A couple things on it. We did have to move the iconic sign, the wooden structure that is there. I believe it was 6 feet, but it's right there, 6 feet to the right. The county said that we were in an easement, and since we were going to do new work on there or do something different, we had to be in compliance. So we moved it already. We are working on a base. They gave us the specs on the base. Once we get that all in, we will reach out to the contractor who's told us 4 to 6 weeks and have the sign installed. I think it's going to be neat. Signs, since a little new, I haven't spoken about this, but we've had some meetings on it. The chief, I have Josh, Eddie, several people on this. I am going to ask the board if I can get a liaison. I have been talking with Elaine. This is on beautification. Again, it goes with the signs, the electronic signs. But I'm forming a work group. We're going to look at all the signage. We're going to list them by categories, see what is regulatory, what the county says we need to do, with the state and other regulations, and which ones are ours, so that we can be more consistent with them and hopefully be streamlined them. So fortunate to have the chief. He's got a lot of background on it. He's going to be leading that for us.
I just
Yeah,
jump in
yeah,
on that too, because I know we've had a conversation. I think that the board, from what I've heard, along with helping to clean up our neighborhoods, also wants to make our community look more cohesive. When you drive down Ocean Parkway, it's kind of been a hodgepodge of different color signage types, all of that. And so, we kind of felt if we're pushing to have everybody clean up their properties, that we ought to give a nicer look to the community overall. So that's kind of, it's a multi-pronged thing. John is working on that, but I think you'll see some nice changes coming at some point.
Yeah, so this, beautification isn't just the landscaping and that type of work. We believe this is a part of it. Turn the page. All right, so this is it. This is the addendum. We'll just go through this, but it is there for you. You can see the extensive work the team is doing and the outsourcers that we brought in. A lot of nice work there on the drainage. So this is part of the addendum. And that's the list. Okay, Linda.
Okay, CPI violations, a total of 93 new violations, 97 were closed out, so we do appreciate everyone applying. 140 are still open. Miscellaneous violations are the majority of the violations. We do have 37 maintenance, trash, and debris. Work orders, 98 work orders, 106 closed out, a total 117. The majority is still open in drainage, 69 with 23 over 30 days and 12 over 60 days. So it'll probably be resolved by the outside contractor. Customer service, total 109 emails and phone calls. And if you have any questions, email at info@oceanpines.org or dial 410-641-7717.
So one thing I want to point out on that, there is a lot of work, and Linda's team does a great job on it. The drainage significantly reduced from 5 years ago when I came in, the amount of calls we get, significantly. On page. Financials. Okay, so it's not the 13th workday. Steve did put together for us, a flash to kind of get us where we're at for January. So with every month, and based upon our governing documents, we have to present versus budget. So you can see here, we got the budget, the current year, and you can see this favorability of $26,000. And it's not just in revenue, but also in expenses. Expenses with efficiencies. Yes, we do have some open positions, but everything's getting done. The point I want to make here is this. It's not surplus. It's favorability to a budget number. It's favorability. Everything is earmarked. Everything is part of a bigger plan. So a lot of people come to me, oh, we got all this surplus, or we got all this cash, and then everybody wants, hundreds of thousands of dollars for different amenities. So this is favorability, right? If anybody has questions on it, I'll be glad to answer them, or send it to info, and the team and I will answer them. Turn the page. All right, so this is the detail. Yes, the police is 36, but the 36 is not just payroll. Our new chief, has been, I gotta be honest with you, excellent in getting grants. I went down and talked to him the other day. He had a grant writer in there. He's still working on other grants, and I appreciate this, believe me. So a big part of that are grants that we didn't have, that we didn't budget for, but we will be now. With the chief. So we do have favorability on the open positions, but which is offset a lot of it by overtime and other expenses. We did have the Lexapol expense in there, which is probably one of the best things we did as far as getting our procedures and processes down pat and everything consistent. I appreciate that to the chief and his team. So where are we? We're looking at, again, golf ops and maintenance. I'm not going to say it anymore. I mean, people are whatever, but it certainly is driving Ocean Pines. Public Works is unfavorable. We've seen favorability because we did have open positions. All the positions are filled, as well as we're using outside contractors. I went through a lot of maintenance earlier, but you can see we're unfavorable, but I'll call this timing for the other months where I had the favorability. Yacht Club, a little unfavorable. It's more about maintenance, and obviously in January they close, so that's minor. Okay, 26,000 to the good. Turn the page.
John, just like to make one comment. Thank you guys, thank you, your team and chief for the efforts on grants, because, I know that, that certainly helps our financial position. Certainly, thanks to the chief, who has an enormous amount of experience there, applying, knowing where to get the money, and we thank you guys for that.
Thank you, chief. Okay. Reserves. Okay, so this is a very important schedule, and obviously our balance sheet, we just don't talk anymore about the P&L, the balance sheet, and I got to be honest with you, our balance sheet is the strongest I've seen in the 15, 20 years that I've been somehow involved with finances or Ocean Pines. We are positioned well for the DMA study at the end of the year, in November. I've talked a little bit about it. I'll talk about it more, but I've talked about it in the past. But the DMA study is where an outside contractor, an independent contractor, a licensed professional will come in and will review all our assets, all our funding, our reserves, which is a lot of talk about, there always is. And then that's where we'll have our answers. So all I can say to everybody is this: we're positioned well. We're positioned better than we were 5 years ago when they first came in, 5 or 6 years ago, which was the plan. Everything we said we would do 5, 6 years ago, where we would be with that balance sheet, that's where we are. Credit to the boards, credit to the people of Ocean Pines, the team and everybody. So there is a massive study on that. The bind is about this thick. We will work and scrub through that before they come in. So this 8.5, I know I've gotten several emails, and we got 8.7 in reserves, we got too much and everything. So the 8.5, the forecast at the end of this year, the fiscal year, 4/30/25, is around 7 million. So we still have spending to go in this year, which will come out of there, especially the road number, bulkhead, the drainage, and even the general replacement. And the estimate that Steve and I are coming up with, end the team, is somewhere around 7 million at 4/30/24. Okay, and that kind of puts you where we said we would be, or in the ballpark. It's certainly a good place. But again, we don't know yet. This is uncharted territory. This is a new regulation. They'll be in I'm talking to them about coming in the end of November, which would position us well for the next budget process. Turn the page. Anybody got questions on that? That was a big one. Okay. Questions?
Just to be clear, the addendum with the drainage, the 102,000.
Yes, sir.
That's not a new expense. I mean, that was always factored in, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's part of the budget, yeah. There may be between months, some, timing, on it, right.
Thank you.
One of the things we try to take advantage with the outside contractors is when they have slow work, that's when we're like, okay, we try to get a better price. Yep, timing. That's it.
Great. No questions? Okay, thanks, John. Appreciate that. Next on the list is Treasury Report. Monica.
Thanks, Rick. As of January 31st, 2024, the association had approximately $14.9 million in cash. Cash increased $1 million from the same time period last year. Cash decreased $0.8 million from December of 2023. We have $14.4 million invested in CDARS. We realized $53,000 in interest income for the month. The remaining $4.5 million is insured sweep accounts, treasury bills, money market, and other operating accounts diversified between 2 local banks. John?
Thank you, Monica. I just want to point out on this, because I did get a couple of, or actually one person, they're asking me or asking us, you know, the interest rates are up, so you got more money coming in. Not going to disagree with that. Nobody's happier than me, than Steve and myself. So what does that mean as far as our reserves, right? So it's a two-prong. Yes, the interest rates went up, so we have more money coming in on the reserves than we anticipated, you know, back when rates were 1% or 0. However, inflation is higher, so it kind of offsets. So the inflation factor, when DMA comes in, I'm sure will be adjusted. So they kind of negate each other. So just want to put that out there. I am getting some excellent questions on that, but we are looking at that. And I did reflect that in this budget that hopefully gets approved today.
Thanks, Monica. Appreciate that. Next up, we have public comments. Members wishing to make public comments must state their name and address and limited to 5 minutes. So do we have any public comments this morning? Please step forward to the podium.
My name's Tom Taylor. I live in Ocean Pines, Section 3, Lot 210. And for anybody that know where that is, if you come to North Gate, half mile in, left-hand side. And I'm here because I've got some letters from the CPI, is it? Yeah, CPI saying that I had leaves in an inappropriate spot. If anybody's been in North Gate, you've been by my house. I maintain my property very well. I take pride in it. And I was insulted by it to get a nasty letter. Let's see here. Is the time going now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
You're good.
So anyhow, it says I'm in violation. No material should be placed or permitted to remain which may damage, interfere, installation, maintenance of utilities, change flow of drainage channels in the easement or obstruct flow of water through drainage channels. It doesn't. I called up there, I was insulted. I called up, it said you can call up there to the CPI, is it? CPI, and you can tell them about it. I called up and I said, hey, I'm insulted by this. And they said, wait a minute, put me on the phone with a young man named Josh. And Josh, he wasn't very nice to deal with. I could tell he was a young boy and didn't know what he was talking about, because I said, well, what have I done wrong here? He said, well, we don't collect your leaves anymore. I said, well, I didn't know that. He goes, well, you should. You got to read your report. And I said, I didn't. Well, it's on the internet. I go, I don't have a computer. That's not my thing. I don't do it. I've never done anything to cause a hassle. And he goes, well, you either got to do it or. I said, well, what is the easement? How far my property is the easement? He said, well, it starts on the street. And I said, how far does it go in? He said, 25 feet. He didn't know the answer, but I believe that lady there was trying to give him the answer. And he blurted out, 25 feet. And I said, no, it's only 60 feet to my house. You don't have over close to half of my property as an easement. So he didn't know what he was talking about. And then I said, well, where's the utility lines? He didn't know. I said, well, They're on my side of the ditch, and I do know because I did an addition 33 years ago, and I called Miss Utility, and they marked everything out. So I know where they go, not in the way of that. I don't have any more leaves in front of my house than anybody else does. I'd invite anybody to go by there. I'd love for everyone to come by there after this meeting and take a peek at it. And if you think I've done something wrong or it's not right, then we'll take it from there. But I've gotten 2 harassing letters that demand, what did it say? Here's my property right here. Sent me a picture of it. I'm like, there are just as many leaves and stuff in the yard that you're standing on as in front of mine. So what? I don't know. I don't get it, man. I've been here 42 years in that house. I raised a family here. I give back. I did pancake breakfasts. I did help build floats for the school. I coached Little League. I was telling you that I helped with the food drive with the police department for over 10 years. You know, I give back. Not looking for any kind of trouble, you know. And I said, well, how come you don't do the vacuum anymore? He said, well, people were loading up. And then I saw this thing in the paper, and they're showing, you know, yards with a bunch of leaves. I go, well, that's not what I have. That's not what I did. I just got what was out of the ditch. And he goes, well, people are abusing that. And I said, well, don't you think those would be the people you send a nasty letter to, not me? And he said, well, we're not doing it. So I'm thinking about it, and I go, well, you got 40 to 50 grand in a pickup truck. You got 20 to 30 grand in that leaf collector, the vacuum. And what was once an asset is now a liability. You're not using it. And if you're telling me you don't have the manpower, well, I don't know, because you had them in the summertime. There are certain things you can't do in the wintertime. You could collect those leaves and help other people out. And I just think that that's our money that they're using to do things, and it should be spent wisely. And if they spend it wisely, they should utilize it. And when I called up there to find out, I got another letter demanding that I abate the situation, or we were going to go to court. And also, it's just nuts stuff. And I'm like, going, okay, I want to go to this meeting. And then I got another piece of paper saying the day of the meeting, but it didn't tell me what time or the location. I'm thinking, well, now, you didn't do your work. Whoever that is didn't do your work. And whoever hired that boy, he raised his voice to me and said, do you know who you're talking to? And I said, I don't know. And in the paper, it says, Josh, you Josh? He goes, I'm the chief. I'm like, oh, Christ. You know, so I quit talking to him because he didn't know what he was talking about. So whoever hired him, I don't know what his credentials are to become a chief, but what digging I did, I found out that he's the guy that was doing the letters on the signboards, and that's how he became a chief. And I think he should be better trained to know what he's talking about. If he's in charge of anything, he should be educated. And people should talk nicely to people here, I think. Like I said, I've been here 42 years, 44. I've rented for 2 years before I was a property owner. But just be nice, be kind. This is that kind of neighborhood. I mean, I'm a neighbor. My neighbors love me. I take care of my property, and I don't borrow anything. And if they need anything, they know they can count on me. But to get a nasty letter, 2 nasty letters, it's aggravating. Now I've had to take my time to come over here and talk about it. I don't want to do that. I'm not a big complainer. I've ran a business for 40 years. You know, I couldn't run a business like that where I was talking to people in a surly manner or ignorant like. But anyhow, I too have water in my ditch, and 4 houses beyond me that go to the drainage ditch don't have water in it. So I have a problem too when I called up about it. And I said something to that boy, Josh. He goes, well, that's not my department. I go, okay. But I called before about it, and nobody's done anything. You know, I'm not a complainer. I do it myself. I'll clean it myself. I'll do it. I help my neighbors on either side. Yes, sir.
Just real quick.
My 5 minutes are up?
Yeah, 5 minutes, not only that, but if you could go ahead and give us your actual address again.
Yes, I
And then
will.
we're going to take a look at that.
Absolutely.
Okay. What was it once again?
75
Uh-huh.
Ocean Parkway.
Gotcha.
And if you're coming in the north gate, it's a half-mile in, left-hand side.
Great.
I drive a silver Chevy Silverado, which pretty much will be there most times.
Okay. Thank you I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate the time, and hopefully we can get this straightened out and you got, and one of my neighbors saw me and said, oh, here, let me write something for you. Look, I don't want more harassment from the CPI. You guys take a peek at it.
We'll go ahead and take a look at it for you. Thanks.
All right, thank you. I
Appreciate your
appreciate it.
comments, Mr. Taylor. Any other public comments?
Karen Kaplan, 32 Chatham Court. Two things I wanted to say. One is, I think that the beautification initiative with the new signage is going to really elevate the look of the community. And I hope that it trickles down to the Racket Center. And my other comment is, I just wanted to thank you for adding the two-sport membership to the budget this year, to the membership availabilities. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Karen.
Amy Pack 109 White Horse Drive. Today I'm attending hoping to hear a discussion regarding BO8. Most HOAs have a code of conduct. In looking at the markup, the section which was weaponized in the past has been removed. Also added is important language regarding confidentiality. Under conflicts of interest, language was added that directors couldn't receive anything free or discounted from contractors doing business with OPA. Considering that in the past we had directors supposedly agreeing to a compromise that eating and drinking free at establishments outside of Ocean Pines run by contractors was okay, why wouldn't directors want this language and a discussion of BO8? At least have a public discussion as to why you do not want a code of ethics. The park has one, Glen Riddle has one, the largest association in Maryland, Columbia Association, has one. It's called a Code of Business Conduct and Policies, and it's 13 pages long. A simple search of HOAs show that most HOAs have a code of conduct. I hope to hear a discussion regarding one today. Thank you.
Any other public comments? None. The floor is now closed for public comments. Of capital requests, we have none. And then we have next on the list is CPI violations.
Violations, in all these cases, first and second letters were provided per resolution MO1. No hearing was requested and the violation continues. 26 Carriage Lane, 147 Teal Circle, 268 Windjammer Road, 79 Cresthaven Drive, 48 King Richard Road, 298 Ocean Parkway, 75 Ocean Parkway, and 29 Boston Drive.
Do I have a motion to approve to legal?
So moved.
Second? Discussion.
Discussion, yes, I'm sorry. There are two changes that I would like to see us make on 26 Carriage Lane, since it's only a house number. I'd like to see us move that from legal just to a contractor. That can be taken care of fairly easily, and we probably shouldn't be wasting legal time on that. I think based upon the gentleman who spoke about his property today, I'd like to suspend 75 Ocean Parkway until we're able to go out and get a good look at that and make a determination. So if we can do both of those things.
Okay. All in favor of the discussion? All in favor?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Steve.
What are we voting in favor? The motion?
We're going to vote in favor of the violations going to legal, except those ones that we just outlined of 75 Ocean Parkway and 26 Carriage Lane to.
We're voting on the original motion as amended by Elaine's request.
Correct. Yeah. Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Opposed, passes.
I do have, sorry. 298 Ocean Parkway is a leaf maintenance and 29 Boston Drive is a tree. I'm requesting that they be sent, applied out by a contractor. So
Good.
Lynn, the one for 29 Boston. When we're shown that there's something that's a clear and present danger, something that you can just respond to and take care of that immediately without going through this?
yeah,
Or do we?
it's a case of board majority.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
I'm with you.
Okay, unfinished business? We have none. As far as for new business, we have Monica, as far as motion to approve the fiscal 2024-25 fiscal budget. Monica.
Thank you. I move to approve the budget for the fiscal year 2024-2025, which the budget was modified following the presentation to the membership at the public hearing on February 7th, 2024. Operating reserves, $15,259,599. Operating expenses, $15,259,599. Bulkhead expenses, $1,177,212. Capital expenses for general replacement of roads, drainage, new capital is $2,076,916. Assessment interest revenue transfer to reserves is $3,409,002. Assessment for non-water properties, $850. Assessment for non-water estate, $1,275. Assessment water, $1,465. Assessment water estate, $2,198. Assessment water non-bulkhead, $940. And assessment water non-bulkhead estate, $1,410. The purpose and effect is to approve the motion. Approval of the motion will allow the use of funds as noted for operating and capital expenses associated with the general operations of the association. For background, a thorough review has been completed by the GM, his team, by the Budget and Finance Committee, and by the Board of Directors. The budget was posted on the OPA website for review by the membership. A public meeting was held on February 7th to present the budget to the membership and have an open discussion with the membership to discuss and address questions and concerns.
Thanks, Monica. So motion to approve the 2024-2025 budget. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Steve.
Thanks, Rick. I guess I have a question. I just want to, I have no problem with what's listed in the motion. What I'm curious about is we've had a couple of different lists sort of floating around as to what's to be included and not included. So my question is this: does this resolution include the 10% increase in pickleball fees, 7% increase in the boat slip, 2% increase in seasonal memberships in aquatics? And does it also include, for argument's sake, the recommendation from Budget and Finance to reduce the, regarding beach parking? I'm not sure who to ask, so I'm.
Yeah,
whether it's Monica or Rick.
parking, but yes, those amounts were part of the final budget.
Including the reduction in the beach parking?
I don't think beach parking was changed.
So when you say reduction, I know initially on the daily, there was a reduction. Outside of that, I'm not sure what you're saying.
No, so
We
not
did
there.
make that reduction on the daily from what was proposed at first. Outside of that, I'm not sure what you're saying.
My recollection, and maybe I got this wrong, but I thought Budget and Finance had recommended a reduction in beach parking, and when I asked staff what the net effect of that reduction was, I was told it was a $54,000 drop in revenue. So my question is whether or not that made it into this budget or it was not in this budget.
The daily reduction is in there.
You're right, they made the reduction, you're right, that $50,000, yes.
That's actually a
So that
negative
was-
impact on revenue.
Yes.
That single item by itself, correct, on the proposed revenue, yes.
Any discussion?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Thanks for answering my questions. Last year, when we considered the budget, we did not increase amenity fees at all. And I supported that. My own feeling was at the time, in large part because we were just coming out of the COVID pandemic. We were experiencing a lot of inflation, and frankly, there were a lot of uncertainties as to what was going to happen. It made sense at that time not to raise amenities until we got a better, clear idea of what the economy was looking like, and we had a better baseline from which to operate. Our governing document, on the other hand, does require that the amenities self-fund. In other words, they should, when possible, bring in enough revenue to cover their expenses. Now, that doesn't happen all the time. Certainly not suggesting we should shut down amenities if we have to contribute some extra money. And although I'm sure there's some fudging of the lines, some of our assessments also goes to cover some of the costs of the amenities. I think that's probably natural. To me, the issue is whether or not some of the reductions and suggestions in this list make sense. For argument's sake, in aquatics, last year, we were able to get through the summer months. We had a full complement of lifeguards, as opposed to the year before, where we had sort of a rolling shutdown of certain pools. And we also had the added experience of, since there's an increase in minimum wage, we were spending more money for lifeguards, and we had more lifeguards. This year, and by the way, that's a credit to John, Aquatics Department, and everybody who was involved in that. This year, the budget projection is aquatics will not be profitable. And what's in here basically calls for a 3% increase only on winter and summer seasonal memberships. Now, full disclosure, I have an annual membership. I have no problem in paying 3% more on the annual membership. But my view is that all of the fees, whether it's drop-ins, classes, memberships, whatever, should go up at an increment of about 3%. Now, that may not cover the shortfall in aquatics, but the fact of the matter is if we go 2 years or 3 years without a reasonable increase in our fee schedules for any amenity, we got to pay the piper at some point, and then we're looking at a 15, 20% increase in 1 year. So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So that's, to me, some concern. As to the boat slips, staff recommended a 14% increase in boat slips. We have a waiting list of about 100 people waiting to use our boat slips. We are currently underpriced all of the comparable boat slips in the area where people can dock their boats. And if we do the 14% increase, we're still going to be under everybody else. There is no economic reason that we should not be increasing the boat slips to the staff recommendation. We went the last 5 years, we've had 2 years where there was no increase and 3 years where there's a 4% increase, which at best covers inflation and covers some minor maintenance. So for 5 years, there really hasn't been an increase in the boat slips at all. So it seems to me that's another area where we should increase the fees for boat slips, fees for that particular amenity. And as to the beach parking, as I say, I mean, from staff, when we had our review, staff indicated that was a $56,000 drop in anticipated revenue. In other words, by accepting the budget and finance recommendation, there's less money coming in. That's what staff said. So based upon that, I'm not sure this is as good as we could do. Let's leave it at that.
Thanks, Steve. Any, Dr. Lackanen?
Thank you, Rick. Steve, I hear what you're saying, and I hear you. Expenses have gone up. We've maintained a flat effect towards our amenities. But when you take a look at the entire corporation and the amount of money that we're generating organically, as John's team has implemented, golf is making an enormous amount. We have close to $1 million ahead of budget after all of our bills are paid. Why should we increase these amenity fees to our members when we don't have to. We can still maintain a reduced assessment, maintain deposits into our reserves at a high rate, maintain a world-class police department. We fund our fire department. We have all of these beautification efforts going on. We're building new amenities. We're expanding things. Why should we continue to raise the fees when we don't have to?
If I can respond.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Steve.
There's at least two reasons. One is our governing documents tell us we shouldn't do that. That's the first one. The second thing is I have no problem with the fact that we're going to realize potentially $1 million or something in that neighborhood in terms of surplus when and if the audit is, when the audit is completed. Right now, it's not a surplus. It's just a projection. And we don't know what's going to come up in the future. I'm not suggesting by any stretch that we should, and I have no problem with the lower assessment. We can do all of this. We can move to being in compliance with our governing documents. We can lower the assessment. We can have the different amenities get either fund themselves or get closer to funding themselves. But there is really no particular justification in either, in fact, all three that I can think of, but certainly in terms of aquatics and boat slips, for not either meeting the staff recommendation, where in boat slips we haven't done anything for 5 years, or in aquatics where everyone should share the burden equally. So I mean, all of what you say is true. But the reason why we don't do it is because if we don't address these issues now, and we set a policy going down the road where we're going to say, well, we're making a lot of money over here, so we don't have to worry about this over there. At some point, we're going to have to pay the piper. I mean, I don't think we should count on a projected surplus to cover these other costs when we don't know what else is going to come down the road. So as an operational matter, that's up to John and his team. That's entirely, but in terms of setting a policy, long-term in terms of budget, we should reinforce the position of having our amenities, when possible, self-funded.
Can I respond?
Go ahead.
Steve, I think your intimation that the Budget and Finance Committee had suggested all of these vast increases is wrong. Did you see the same emails that we all saw? We adopted everything that the Budget and Finance Committee suggested. Well, the 3% for aquatics, what was it, for the 7% or for the marina? We adopted all of their suggestions. I don't know what part of the budget and finance thing that you're talking about.
Well, let me backtrack a little bit. I will not state, because I don't know, that I've seen all the emails you've seen.
No, the ones that were tagged for all of us, I'm talking.
But what I will say is that I never supported those increases. And I sent emails out on those points to everybody on the board. So either you're getting different emails than I'm getting, or maybe you're not on my mailing list, I don't know which. But to me, that's sort of irrelevant, because all the Budget and Finance Committee is doing is making a recommendation. And the fact of the matter is, this board has not voted on any of what was included. These issues which I've identified were included in this year in the budget. I mean, they're in there now, that's fine. So it's a suitable topic for discussion. So I have no problem with the way it's being handled. But there was no vote by the board per se. So I consider it an open matter. And I have no doubt how this is going to turn out, but I do think as a policy, this is the wrong way to proceed. We've done this is now 2 years in a row.
I got you. Can I ask John to respond to some of this?
Sure. It was anticipated. So, first of all good points, both sides, and it is at the board level. So, and I'm just looking at the numbers because I have everything quantified. So what I think is happening here is there were increases. There were increases for pretty much everything you were saying. They may not be the increases that originally were proposed. And I think that's what's happening here. But there were increases, like I don't remember every one, but the Budget and Finance, obviously they took down some of the increases that were proposed at the department level. So My answer to this is there were increases. They may not be the highest increases that you heard at the beginning. Does that help you? I understand your point. You're just, but there were, and that's why.
I mean, I assume essentially what you're saying to me is based upon where the staff came into the budget review process and where we are now, there's an attempt to meet certain compromises.
Correct, but there were still
I get
increases, right? Not the increases you're talking about.
Right, and
Correct.
and I understand that's frankly probably a suitable goal.
Mm.
But I do think in these particular cases, we're making a mistake.
You got to tell them. I'm just giving.
No, I'm addressing your comment,
No,
but
I'm on time.
back to the board, I think if we approve this as stated, we're making a mistake. That's where we are.
Noted. Any other comments?
Yeah, I do, just,
Go
you
ahead.
know, putting my 2 cents on both those issues. I don't really so much disagree with the aquatics portion because, you know, I'm not really certain why the 3% was just, in the one area, not overall. On the boat slips, I think, I kind of have a problem when we just raise things because we can. And sometimes I think we look at things by the percentage amount, not the real dollars. And that's, to me, was the reasoning for being fine on the reduction with the boat slips is, it's 7%, but 7% is a lot of money for a boat when you look at the real dollars for it, versus I know, with racket sports that they, we're not happy about the 10% increase in pickleball. But when you look at the real dollars, you're talking $20 or $30 a year. So, you have to take it all into perspective, I think, when you're looking at making those decisions on the budget.
Okay, thanks. Any other comments? Okay, once again, all in favor of approving the 2024-2025 fiscal budget for Ocean Pines? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Any abstentions? Okay, with that, the fiscal year 2024-25 budget has passed. Next, we have a first reading of the revision of Resolution B08 for Directors' Ethics and Conduct. Steve, you're up.
This is to consider and adopt B08, Director Ethics and Conduct, as revised. Purpose and effect is to begin the consideration of B08 as revised to establish an appropriate code of conduct for all directors when carrying out their duties on the board. Background, there has not been a resolution addressing board member ethics and conduct for several years. The last resolution was rescinded in May of 2021. And during discussions last year, board members agreed that a resolution addressing ethics and conduct would be appropriate. Although I should add that at the last meeting, it got tabled. Last year's board, it got tabled. This draft addresses need for such a resolution, avoids the prior concerns relating to enforcement. Much or all of these suggested changes are standard for not-for-profit entities such as homeowners associations. This resolution should be referred to the Bylaws and Resolutions Committee, and I would add council, which I left off by error, for appropriate review.
Some questions. I know this is has been a hot topic as far as the past, going back to 2008 regarding this issue. And we've gone back and forth with council, who this board listens to recommendations. And it had been brought to our attention that what you're proposing here was we already have in our governing documents as it is already. We do have B05, which talks about conflict of interest. We do have B02 that talks about the rules of order in the board, B03 as well, the rules of order for the association and decorum. And we have the Corporation Association article in Maryland, which has been provided to all of us by council. It talks about the conflict of interest in B05 already. It talks about Robert's Rules of Order. And then, with that too, counsel has been very extensive in his work, who is the expert on HOA law, in providing that he has huge concerns from a legal perspective on bringing this forward. There's a lot of problems in the resolutions, and he has outlined, legally speaking, that it is unnecessary because it's already covered in our bylaws and our governing documents with that. So I'm not sure why we're redressing and having redundancy when we already have what you're proposing currently in these in our current governing documents. So if I can, counsel, if you want to chime in on this piece?
Sure.
Sure.
And for those who are unaware, I'm Spencer Cropper. I'm one of the attorneys at the law firm Ayers, Jenkins, Gordy, and Allman. Our firm as a whole, certainly including Bruce Bright, has reviewed B08. And Mr. Farr, you've done a great job hitting the primary concerns of that the firm has. And to be clear, the firm's positions are strictly legal and not at all related to policy or anything else of that nature. Again, just legal concerns. First and foremost, as Mr. Farr has indicated, yes, there are other governing documents such as B05, B02, and B03 that address many of the points already listed in B08. There's certainly there's concern from the firm that one, there's not a need for redundancy, but there's also the possibility that as should let's say B08 be approved, then there are when you have two different resolutions going towards the same event, should one get changed and maybe not the other, there can always be consistencies in the future, let alone inconsistencies in what currently exists. Also, as stated, there are certain statutes, Maryland statutes, such as 2-405.1, but also just other common law that that tends to also address these all these very same issues as they come about. It is true some boards certainly do have their own variations of similar provisions to what B08 may have, but again, it can depending upon how they're all written differently. It can be inconsistent with perhaps other areas in their own covenants, or perhaps more problematic, inconsistent with what the state statutes provide. Should the state statutes or common law already cover that issue? Going into more of the, I'll call nitty gritty, there is some concern with some of the language used, and perhaps more importantly, the vagueness of the language used or undefined terms that leave it to broad interpretation as to how that would actually, how those terms would be defined. Should there be a challenge of some kind made under that particular resolution? And again, and from the firm's perspective, again, if there are even other resolutions that cover these issues already, perhaps something else to be considered is looking at those particular resolutions covering those issues rather than making a new resolution that's repetitious of what already exists. And as an overarching, looking at B08, those are the firm's concerns with regard to same.
Gotcha. Jeff, you have a question?
Thank you, Rick. Since this board has come together after our annual meeting last year, we have taken a lot of opportunities to streamline our policies and to streamline the way we enforce our policies. This attempt to introduce this ill-fated resolution is 180 degrees out of phase with our efforts. It's out of phase because it adds redundancy. Just like Rick has stated and our counsel has stated, redundancy is created because our governing documents already have important ethic issues already written into them. Additionally, since this board came together in the fall, in case you haven't noticed, there's been no drama. This attempt again to introduce this ill-fated resolution gives the illusion of drama. You know the past. I call foul. Finally, no one's perfect. This association has elected a director and myself with high ethical standards and with a strong moral compass. I do not want to be treated as a child. I yield the floor.
Any comments?
Yes.
Joanne?
As I read through BO8 and have been, somewhat familiar with it over the years, we've already talked about the redundancy. So the purpose of this really has nothing to do with ethics. And, I think we need to be clear about that. It becomes a behavioral document. And we're adults, as Jeff said, we don't need to be monitored for our behavior. I think members on our boards in the past and in the future, some will always certainly be more passionate, about things. And they may also choose to be disrespectful. As adults, we kind of are who we are at this point. And we really shouldn't be focused on that. I think that we've all had varied careers where one of the things that you learn in your professional life is, how to work with difficult people, how to work when you don't agree with someone. And, I find really what it comes down to is how you respond to that is really where the ire and unrest comes from. And I think this board especially is determined to stay focused on business. That's what you do. You don't worry about the personalities. Just stick to the job. In addition to that, there are two things, and part of it I think has already been brought up that really do concern me with the measures, is that it's really allowing the board to circumvent, by being able to remove a member of the board in a very subjective way. It's really something that it is up to interpretation. This is very, as counsel said, it's kind of gray. And, I also don't think that unless egregious cases, things that are already covered in our documents, other board members should be judging one another and look to remove them. To me, it takes away the rights of our homeowners of membership. They've chosen who they want to serve, and whether other people, either for personal or political reasons, when you look down this laundry list of things, every one of us sitting here today, somebody could find a reason to decide to remove us. It's very subjective. And truthfully, in my mind, it's a waste of time. Let's stay focused on business. That's what we're here for. And I want to respect our membership's right to determine who they wish to see. And that's pretty much why I will never, in any version of BO8, ever vote for it. Just saying.
Yeah,
Monica?
I too just want to chime in and not be repeating what's already been said, but I too agree this is subjective in nature, and this has been thoroughly vetted by our legal counsel. So this was not anything I personally, and I don't think others, have made a decision on without considering the information we've gotten from legal counsel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Lacknick?
Thank you, Rick. We have legal counsel for a reason, to vet any of our documents or any of the motions that come up here. And it would appear that every time we've deviated from our legal counsel's advice, we've wound up in a lawsuit that's cost Ocean Pines money. When something costs Ocean Pines money, it costs all of us money. Over the last couple of years, we've probably paid out close to $200,000 worth of lawsuits from our dues. Why would we not listen to our counsel? The other thing I wanted to say, I agree with my other colleagues that oppose this resolution. Steve, you already got our legal counsel's interpretation advising us not to go forward. I don't know why you would bring something like this forward when you know there's 6 of us that will not support it. Was it just to say something? I just don't understand.
Hold on a second.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I agree with everything the board has said here. Again, one of the things that Stu just talked about was listening to counsel. And again, Stu kind of took my thunder here a little bit. He must have been looking at my notes. But we're going to listen to counsel. Again, I didn't know exactly what the number was, but $200,000. So when we get the advice from counsel, we're going to heed that advice. We've talked about it as a group. We're going to listen to what's brought to us. We don't want to get ourselves in a pickle. Again, to everything that Rick talked about, we already have resolutions and bylaws in place. We're utilizing them every day. And I didn't realize that BO8, I thought it was a couple of years ago, but I had done some work, and this thing goes all the way back to 2008. So this thing is not new. And previous boards had been kicking it down the road, as far as I'm concerned. And bottom line, it's not needed, and I will not support it.
Any other comments? Steve?
Thanks, Rick. At the end of this meeting, I will, of course, go to my doctor to suture up all the cuts I've just now received.
Not personal.
Let me touch on a couple. First of all, and John actually is sort of correct about a lot of this. This is an issue that's been bouncing around for a number of years. I think I'm correct, long before any of us were on the board. The way it ended last year was that this issue was tabled ostensibly because we were getting 3 new members on the board. And so when we started with this board this year, we began all over again with first readings and putting something into the process. Having said that, and I've read Bruce's comments, I've talked to a couple of you about this. Let me start off by saying, first and foremost, this is nothing more than a starting point. I'm using last year's text to initiate the process. That's all I'm doing. Whether or not this ends up being the final text, I don't know. And certainly I'm not asking anybody to invest time and effort in what needs to be done in the future until it's seen. And I'm more than willing to either get comments from everybody or send you out drafts when it's appropriate. I've already said to you in emails, I have no intention to bring this up for at least 2 months and maybe more. So I'm sort of using this as a clean slate. If I had to guess, and I've done a little bit of thinking on this on my own, if I had to guess, I think we could get by with something a lot shorter and more concise. Let me also add, because I don't want to leave anybody with the none of this is intended as a personal comment about any of the members of this board, last year's board, or any future board. It's simply a set of ethics and conduct that we should follow, consistent with almost every other homeowners association, consistent with almost any other corporate entity or any other group, including, for instance, Chop Tank. They have their own ethics and conduct policy. And if you look at what the initial email from Bruce, which I find to be quite helpful, by the way, he's correct about B05 addressing some of this. Not all of it, but some of it. You look at B02, B03, it is only with a decorum. If you look at the state statute, it is sort of a good faith, reasonable man statute, which frankly is pretty subjective in and of itself. So none of this is perfect. And I'm not suggesting we'll end up with a perfect document, but I'll carry it a step further. For those of us who, for the concern about somebody being removed for political purposes, let me just note, I have it written down someplace. Yeah. If you go to our bylaws, 5.12, which talks about removal of a board member, it can be removed by a 2/3 vote of the board for cause. You know what cause is? Currently, under the current bylaw, cause is you've missed 3 consecutive meetings for which there's no justification. You have a felony conviction, which I don't think applies to any of us, or you're 60 days in arrears owed to Ocean Pines, or any other action as provided by any resolution adopted by the board relating to conduct. So clearly, even our bylaws assumed we were going to address this issue at some point. And all I'm saying to you today is this is the start of the process. At the end, if you don't like it, you can still vote against it. No problem. And I'm not asking you to invest any time or effort on this. If you want to give me your comments, if you want to engage in the discussion, I'm more than open to doing that. But in fairness, there are holes in what has been provided, and if for any other association, if you look at the national groups that sort of provide advice and counsel to homeowners associations, this is a matter of good practice. They would recommend a conduct, an ethics provision of some type. Now, it's up to us to decide what's to be in it, but they would recommend that. So I'm not sure. I understand there's objections. Let me add one other thing. This issue primarily, the old B08, was not with the content that is not crossed out. It was with the content that was crossed out. All of the enforcement and the procedures for enforcement and those sort of issues were what was causing the problem, which is why it came back this way on several occasions. So the objections that are coming up today, to the best of my knowledge, don't hold me to this because I wasn't on the board, are somewhat new. But again, as I say, this is only meant to be the starting point. And rather than digging in, why don't we see what we can come up with? And that's what I'm trying to do. I hope that answers your question, Stuart.
So with that, you did mention that during the last board cycle, it was tabled for the new board. And at that time, we're all in place, had a fresh perspective, fresh look, hired law firm that is experts in HOA law for them to take a look at it, and which they have. And once again, and not to sound repetitive to my colleagues here, that these things are already covered in all of our governing documents. The things that we're trying to replicate are already in our governing documents. Again, to what Dr. Lackernick said and Jeff said, that we have these. We don't need redundancy in them to the point that we've had previous boards who did not take advice of counsel. This board will always take advice of counsel, always take advice of counsel. We pledge that to do so. That's why we have the experts that provide our legal counsel to us on a wide variety of issues, including this one. And I'm not one to support this because of the redundancy that we have in it. And to Lane's point, we're all adults. All of our actions are covered as far as conflicts of interest. All of our things are covered as far as the Robert's Rules of Order. They're all in here. We don't need this. And I'm not going to support, and whether it's the rest of my colleagues, in moving forward to the Bylaws and Resolutions Committee on that. I'm not going to approve that.
I think I have just
Go
one
ahead.
more comment.
Go ahead.
Addressing, what you've been saying, you keep pushing it as an ethics document, no matter how many times it is explained that we already are covered there. So, I think we need to call it what it is. And it's trying to control the conduct of other board members in some fashion. Many of the things that are important in that regard are already covered in our documents. And yeah, I'm just, is both a homeowner and someone on the board, and quite frankly, one of the reasons that I decided to run this year is to stop all the rancor. You know, let's be adults, let's work on the business of the association and stop looking for ways to worry more about other people's personalities. I think it's just something that, you know, I have really no, it's just not something that I like to see us do as a board. I'd rather us stay more professional and stay on task.
Any other discussion? Good. Steve?
Look, I understand all of this. I'm not asking anyone to invest any more time or effort. I'm not preempting anybody from finally voting on this one way or the other. To the extent there are common law questions, to the extent there are definitional questions, if you allow Rick, if you want to share that with us or with me, you know, I'm sort of starting off as trying to get this addressed. I'm not at the end point. And as I said before, this should not be viewed as the end point. But to the extent we can share some information about other concerns, as I say, I fully understand what has been provided here. But to suggest that a requirement that you act in good faith and when subjected to a court, whether or not you acted as a reasonable person, or to suggest that comedy among the members addresses all ethics questions is just not entirely accurate. So at this point, I'm sort of, we're going to start out, I'll try to come up with something that addresses some of this. I suspect it will not look like this finished document. And then if you want to vote it down, you're going to vote it down. I understand that. That's the way the process is meant to work. I don't see this as being duplicative. I don't see this as grinding an axe. I don't see this as being overly political. As I said before, I mean, this is Homeowners Association 101 good practices. If you want to reject it at the end, that's fine. But that's sort of where I'm starting off. So at that, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, we're gonna wrap this up here, but good.
I got one last thing to say. Unfortunately, you as the public really don't know why this was removed to begin with. Let me give you a little heads up. It was removed originally under a previous, two previous boards ago, because this resolution can be used as a weapon against a minority and have people removed. And we're not going to play that game here. That's why we don't support this. Thank you.
All right, with that, as I mentioned, that the board would not like this referred to the Bylaws and Resolutions Committee. If you choose to bring it up to a second reading, that's up to you. But as far as the reference to bylaws and committee, resolution committee, that's not, board does not support that. So we can go ahead and move on. Next item. So the next item we have on our agenda is corporate resolution to change the resident agent and signees of the liquor license for Ocean Pines. As a meeting of the Board of Directors of Ocean Pines Association held today, February 17, 2024, the following actions are to be taken. The removal of Colette Horn, Doug Parks, and Frank Daly as officers of their liquor license. Addition of Richard Farr, Stuart Lackernick, and John Latham as officers of the liquor license. Acknowledgement of Colette Horn's removal as resident agent of Ocean Pines Beach Club. That Richard Farr was appointed resident agent of the liquor license. So with that, do I have a motion to approve?
So motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
And the motion passes. Next we have is our appointments. For our appointments, we have Don Bonifade, second term Budget and Finance. John Caccio, is that pronounced correctly? First, I'm sorry? Caccio, first term Marine Activities. Connie Corbett, excuse me, first term Communications. Cindy Hoffman, first term Communications. and Camilla Rogers, first term of bylaws and resolutions. So with the approval of that, do I have a favor to approve, a motion to approve all appointments?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? And do I have a motion to approve the
Excuse
adjournment?
me, Mr. Clark.
Oh, sorry.
Before you adjourn, I just want to make sure the record's clear on one thing. If I could
Sure,
take us back to the CPI violations for just a moment.
sure.
There was a motion to approve to send to legal, excluding 26 Carriage and 75 Ocean Parkway. And then I believe after unanimous vote, Ms. Martin indicated there's maybe one or two other properties that something was to occur. I'm not sure if that got captured in the,
Wasn't sure.
about,
The Burma charter.
was it, I just want to make sure that was all captured in whatever vote.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure it's clear for the record. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, council. So I got a motion to adjourn today's meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. Today's meeting is adjourned.